Worship, what does it actually mean? So, does worship mean the acts, the ceremonial acts that we do, prayer, pilgrimage, siyam, fasting? Of course it is. However, Islam, not only Islam, but the previous religions before Islam have widened the scope of it so that it includes anything and everything that is beneficial to the individual, to the family, or to the society, or even not even to the human society, but any society of living things. That all could be considered worship. If you are doing it conditioned by the correct intent, also with another condition, which is that this action that you're going to do does not go against the teachings of the religion itself. So if someone goes to work naturally, he is going from, let's say, 8 to 5, goes back home, that time is considered also worship because he is doing something that not only embetters himself, his family, and the society, but also he is giving his effort to take back money that could be used for further sorts of other worship. The narrations say that spending one dinar, dirham, pound, whatever have you, spending only one for family members is better 5 times than doing that same amount in sadaqah, in charity. So the relation between us and everything that is around us could be a part of worship. Indeed, what this verse is saying that life is continuous worship because it should be continuous good. The narrations speaking about staying in a mosque and fasting are almost the same in many aspects. One of them, that if a person is idling at a mosque, he is considered in worship, even if he's not doing anything, not even meditating, he's just sitting there. He's just sleeping there, let's say. He is getting worship and he is getting points, except if he interrupts that with something that is ungodlike. So if a person is just idling in his fast, similarly, he's not doing anything, he is getting more blessings. The only time in which this cycle will be cut if he does, God forbid, a sin. So from then on, he has to actively do something that is considered worship to be continuous, to be considered as a worshipper. So worship is just practicing life like Allah has wanted. Most of the things that we do, the livelihood, is actually something that we enjoy. And even that could be considered as worship. Even romance between a man and his spouse, the same thing, that is also considered worship. And some man, so that you may become, Amir al-Mu'minin told us that you need top of everything that you need to do. Don't just stack papers, I'll do them tomorrow, and then all of these obligations, are just a weight pulling you back, which will always not to do Salat al-Layl, because these are the least lavish and not lavish at all. He's telling us that we have to have this control in between. And within this control, we're able to walk into, inshallah, a straight path. So worship is far vast than just the mere, let's say, rituals. That's the first thing. Just to our benefit, even though that we are objecting in one way or another. So now the secret of worship, which is the title of today's, inshallah, talk, the secret of worship is knowing these things plus three other things. The third thing is that we need to understand that when we are doing our worship, there is no value whatsoever in the worship itself. So now prayer, you're doing these actions, right? These actions mean nothing. They are just Allah's condition so that your prayer is accepted. However, the true prayer is pray every day. We're not distant from sin. The reason is we are just doing the shell of the prayer, not the soul, the ruh of the prayer. What we need is the soul of the prayer, which is the secret of the prayer inside. So we need to understand that the actions, the withholding of food, drinking, smoking, all of the luxuries of life while you are fasting, this is actually not the worship itself. It is leading, it is a tool to get to the actual worship, a condition to the actual worship. The fourth thing is that when we must understand that just completing a certain checklist, that does nothing. What is appropriate in his circumstance. So, a person that is, for example, retired may have more time to practice prayer and to be, attentive to it, etc. So, in his situation, it is very reasonable for him to do extra a'mal, laylat qadr, whatever have you. But for a person that is extra busy and he has no choice but to be busy, it's his livelihood. He wouldn't live, his family wouldn't live. Actually, do just a segment of the amal or the to us. If even if we do the same, his faith first of all. Secondly, how difficult the prayer or this worship is upon him. The more difficult, the more ajr he's going to get. Thirdly, if he is actually interacting with it. There is a dua, oh Allah, don't make me pray in certain circumstances. It says, and it's mentioned in the du'as, I think, of Imam Ja'far Sadiq after the prayer of Asr. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min du'a'in la yusma' wa min salatin la turfa'. Oh Allah, I beseech or I seek refuge to you from a prayer that is not answered or a supplication that is not heard. And that is the empty prayer or the empty dua. So actually just focusing on 2 rak'ah and praying them alone in the middle of the night is better than praying 1,000 rak'ah in which you don't know which is which. And even the Prophet and all Ahlul Bayt, they had certain narrations regarding people. Khawarij. Let's talk about Khawarij. So Khawarij are the people that exited from the loyalty of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And it is figurative because they weren't actually really affiliated to Imam Ali. They just loved him. It's nothing, not real affiliation. So they went against him in the Battle of Siffin and in several other wars. In Siffin, what happened is that the army of Muawiyah, they put the Qur'ans on the tip of the spears and raised them. So the Muslims that were fighting with, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, said that we're not going to attack the Qur'an. They're holding the spear, their weapon is the Quran. So Imam Ali said, I am the actual vocalizing Quran. You should follow me, not and even if that Quran falls, it's just collateral damage. They're the one doing it, it's not us. And you need to fight. So they didn't fight with Amir al-Mu'mineen Salallahu. And they went against him and they actually had what we call a judicial sitting in which they have elected Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, which is not a great personality, actually he's quite the opposite, to be a representative of Ali ibn Abi Talib's army. And he said, don't. He prays a lot, but he understands nothing. In more devious and more misunderstanding. So he told them, don't put Abu Musa, but they did. They said, we elect him. We actually are against you and Muawiyah now, but we want people to resolve this. So we want Abu Musa. And the other party was either Umar ibn al-As or Ubaidullah ibn Abi. I can't remember either. They're both the same, so I'll just X person. So each of us will remove his own, the person he's representing. So I will remove Muawiyah from the rule, and you will remove Ali from the rule, and we will make shura so that the Muslims will choose then. So Abu Musa was very happy. So he said, go Abu Musa. So Abu Musa said, he ascended upon the pulpit and said that إني أخلع ولاية أمير المؤمنين كما أخلع خاتمي هذا, and removed his ring. I am removing the wilayat of Ali and the rule of Ali like I am removing the ring, thank you, from the finger. So then Amr ibn al-As or Ubaydullah ibn Abi ascended, I think it's Amr ibn al-As, and so he said that I remove the rule of Ali ibn Abi Talib like I remove my sandals from my feet, and then he threw his sandals. And then he said, I put Muawiyah on the throne like I put this ring on my hand. So he did oppositely. And then a big problem rose. Anyways, so Khawarij were from that group. Khawarij were mentioned and their worship was mentioned. When you have these sort of scabs on the prayer area because you prayed so much? So they had them not only on their foreheads, they had them on the palms of their hands. So they were just like a farmer's hand, but really, really yellow and black in the middle because they press it on the land when they're praying. Their knees also, their noses, they had a black spot over here which I've never seen, but it was narrated, and also in their feet, in their on their fingers. So once Amir al-Mu'mineen was passing through with Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he heard a very beautiful sound reciting Quran in the middle of the night. And this ayah that was recited is a very glorious ayah. أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ وَأَطْرَافَ النَّهَارِ. So it's Allah praising those that do supplication to Allah in the middle of the night and in the start of the morning. So then he said, Abdullah ibn Abbas, oh, this is so great. This guy is just doing recitation in the middle of the night, and he's doing it out of heart because they didn't have a lot of lanterns back then, and the moon would only show for 3 nights in the month, the 13th, 14th, 15th, and then you can't see anything after 8 o'clock. So Ali ibn Abi Talib told him, no, لا تغرك عبادتهم. Don't think highly about their worship. It's just a ritual they're doing. They understand nothing of it. So he said, okay. And then I don't know which battle, maybe it was Hunain, maybe it was Siffin. Ali ibn Abi Talib, after he was victorious, he was going, through the battlefield with Abdullah ibn Abbas. So he took the tip of the sword and he pointed to some dead body and told him, Amman huwa qanitun ana al-layl. This is the guy that was reciting the same verses, but he's against me. Which shows that knowledge of what's beyond the actual worship, the reason for the worship itself, which is affiliating to the prophets and to the imams and to the true religion, that is what matters, not how much you recite at day and night. Even there is a narration that says, حَبَّذَا نَوْمُ الْأَكْيَاسِ وَصِيَامُهُم. That I think it was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I love that the wise men sleep and they break their fasts, which means that, it is always preferable to be in a fasting state or a praying state, right? So like actual worship. But the Prophet says that if a person is wise and knowledgeable and actually knows the secret of the prayer and of the fast, he does not have to do that continuously. He would need worship in his life as much as we need salt in food. So it's just a small amount that goes a long, long, long way. So he's not telling us not to pray or not to fast, but he's telling us, if you recite the Quran, understand the Quran. If you do the salah, understand why we do salah. If you're fasting, understand why we're doing the fast. And if you look at the reasons behind all of that, let's go to the first worship that was ever mentioned. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. Allah told the angels, do prostration to Adam. What he wanted from that is not the actual prostration, because the prostration, the true prostration, is only to Allah. But Adam was a qibla. Why was Adam a qibla? Why was Ali ibn Abi Talib born in a qibla? Why is this connection between the Kaaba and all of the prophets? For one reason, that Allah wants us to acknowledge the rank of the good people. And that is a general rule. If we don't acknowledge the good that good people do in our societies, it has no use. If a person does even the slightest thing, let's say one person, he doesn't come to Imam Barga often, for example, but he came and he's distributing water, tea, or whatever have you, there needs to be a praise. من لم يشكر المخلوق لم يشكر الخالق in the narration. Whoever doesn't thank the created, he is not thanking the creator. And it actually means something to give them this boost of confidence. Even children, just in the second night of Qadr, I don't know the name of this small boy, small chap. Very cute. I think he's like 6 years old or something. He was distributing to us pastry so that we'd eat before we go into Laylat al-Qadr. And he was doing that by the order of his father. So his father said, okay, give it to him, give it to him, give it to him. So I decided to do an experiment. When he came to me, I said, oh, mashallah, you're distributing food, so nice. Since when were you doing this? Oh, I love you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I took the pastry from his hand. He ran off, and gave like 3 people directly, waiting for the same reaction. It's good. It's good. Even though you'd say, no, I don't want to give them extra praise. I don't want them to do good for the praise. But why? You scold them if they do something bad. You need to actually give them fortification and give them prizes for doing good. So that goes a long way. And if we see good and acknowledge good, then there is more likeliness that it will happen again and again and again, and will be, inshallah, more let's say, something that is usual, because none of us have a habit of doing something that is good that costs us either money or health or time, but we get accustomed to it. Prayer is an acquired taste. إن الإنسان يحب الدعاء. Humans like to be relaxed and resting. So it's against our nature. But we get accustomed and groomed into loving prayer and loving worship in all of its forms, that it then becomes a second nature to us. So now, understanding why prayer, why worship was made, it's basically by looking at that first worship. That worship was, the reason for it was acknowledging that Adam is the father of the humans, he's the most perfect of the creation, and he has the light of the higher creation in his backbone, which are Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So, this is what worship is all about. Allah is good and He loves everything that is good, and they are good and He loves them and they love Him back. There is this, narration, verse in the Quran. سوف يأتي الله بقوم يحبهم ويحبونه. That Allah will bring upon people that He loves and they love Him back. There is this exchange of love. And this was in a context in which some Muslims have become lazy, after Islam spread and was a thing. Because they felt like their role was over, so they just sat in the back seat and was just looking and observing everything that's happening, not helping, not expediting for good, and deflecting bad. So the verse says that if you don't do your roles, Allah will bring people that He loves and they love back, and they love Him back. And also in another verse of the Quran, it says, يستبدل الله, I forgot the rest of it, but at the end it says, ثم لا يكون أمثالكم. That if you don't do your role, Allah will replace you with someone else and they will not be like you. They will be better than you. Allah is giving you a chance even though you're not worthy. There are worthy people to come later on, but only if you don't do your role, we will be giving it to them along with the prize. The responsibility goes hand in hand with the prize. So, when we all think about, the things we do and how diligently we do them, we take many things for granted. If you have any role in a mosque, in, let's say, lecturing, or let's say preparing for the good, let's say, congregations, or being a part of them, that the slightest role, even the slightest role, is something that is going to be enough, insha'Allah, for Allah to keep His choosing upon you. So when we are born, Imam Zaman Ajala Faraja, or whatever Imam that is within your timeline, this Imam has a plan for you. Allah have a plan for you. It is up to us to live up to it or not. It's a choice that we make. And we usually take the easiest of choices, but in religion we have to take a choice that is quite tough a little bit. So, worship, all worship, since the dawn of time until now, ceremonial, ritual, it helps us, it gives benefits to us, but these are all marginal. The soul of the worship is like the soul of the body. A body has no use when the soul is gone. The same thing, the worship has no use at all. And it is actually ugly. In some narrations, that if a person prays a prayer and then pays attention to nothing through his prayer, the angels will take this prayer like a paper and twist it around and then smack him in the face. Obviously, he wouldn't be feeling it in this world, but that will get up to him in the thereafter. And the prayer will say, ضيعتني ضيعك الله. You have lost me, may Allah make you lost forever. So sometimes when we are doing things and taking them for granted, we are actually depriving ourselves from the beauty of it. Allah needs nothing from us, we just need the good for ourselves. But when we do good, it has to be acceptable in Allah's eyes. Imagine this very nice example, inshallah. Not so very nice, but inshallah it will be. So imagine if you, in, I don't know, Valentine's Day or something, you take a flower, you take some chocolates, and take it to your wife and give it to her, or the wife does that. It's beautiful, both sides. However, imagine if you do so, if you take them and you actually don't hand them, you just throw them in the back of the trunk or back of the car, and then they find it and they take it. It wouldn't be the same. If you present it willingly and you're smiling and you're showing the true appreciation, this is when it counts. But just here's your Valentine, khalas, you have no reason to be angry upon me now. That will actually cause the issues. So Allah is the same. Like we treat each other, we must treat Allah, because we Allah has given us aql, or the brain and the mind. And the mind, Allah has said in the narrations, of course, that bihi you see, sometimes if we're doing like tasbih zahra, bibi zahra or something after prayer, we go like subhanallah, and we don't even, it's like a, I don't know, gate for you, just throwing it at your face, because less comes with focus, less comes with care. But it's just like anything. Cars, when they used to make them by hand before, they were so resilient. A car would just stay for four. You sell it to 2028 and you lose most of its market, and then you just sell it for a loss. The reason being is that they're just creating so many copies of them. It's just automated. When it becomes automation, it loses its beauty. This is why, you know, good restaurants, if you go and eat and then after 10 years it grows, it's not the same, because they don't put the equal amount of love nor spice. Everything changed now. They just want the quantity. So our religion is all about quality. Many people that Allah has mentioned in the Quran and the Prophet and the Imams have mentioned were actually people that weren't the people that do a lot of prayer and a lot of worship, but rather, even though Ahlul Bayt set an example for that, like Imam Sajjad salam alayhi, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and indeed all of them, but there were people that were sincere. So at the end of everything that was said, the sincerity is the thing that counts. If we do our worship, whether it be a ceremonial worship, prayer, etc., or lively worship like tending to one's family, going to work, just doing it with enough sincerity, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Every work is going to be judged per the intention that comes with it. Sometimes we have the bad intention, God forbid. So if a person, for example, is plentiful and a blissful life, inshallah ta'ala, so his intention was to kill him, but he helped him. But so he did something good, but with bad intention, so it will be considered bad. And if you do something with good intention, but it backfires, you will also be rewarded. So, for example, you're trying to gift your friend a gift, for example, and you do so, and someone else sees and says, "But you told me that your birthday was a month ago, and I gave you X amount of money just based on that." Like he tricked that other guy. You didn't intend for that. You didn't even know that that was a possibility. All you wanted is to give a good gift. So the intention is even higher. So you have now we have two levels. The first level is sincerity. The second level is intention. And if we have both of them, sincerity and intention, this will be the perfect prayer that Allah will accept. Final, let's say, story before I go into the end of this meet, inshallah. Nabi Allah Musa, he was indeed an Imam. You could call him Imam Musa alayhi salam. So Nabi Allah Musa alayhi salam, Allah asked him, "What did you do for me?" So he said, "Oh Allah, I prayed." So Allah replied, "But that was with my power and giving." Then he said, "Oh Allah, I have fasted." So Allah said, "I gave you the tawfiq, I gave you the ability to do so." So he said, "Oh, I did zakat." Then he said, "I gave you the money to start out with." And then they continued, they always have dialogue. They continued until then Nabi Allah Musa, sorry, Nabi Allah Ibrahim it was. Nabi Allah Ibrahim then said, "Oh Allah, I have done nothing for you, apparently. Everything I do, it doesn't seem to register." So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Al-an hamidtani haqqa shukri." Now you have delivered to me the utmost thanks. And now I have accepted from you. The Prophet himself, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest creation, he said, "لن تدخلوا الجنة بأعمالكم." You will never enter paradise with your own work. It is all the tools of Allah He has given you access to. You will enter with Allah's mercy. And let's remember, what is Allah's mercy? Allah's mercy, of course, is the blessing of Allah, but Allah's mercy has to pass through the prophets and the imams to get to us. So they are Allah's mercy. وَمَا بَعَثْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً. We have not sent you except for you to be a blessing and mercy. So we just keep going back to the same theme. Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are the gauge of what is to be accepted or not, and are the start and finish of Allah's mercy that descends upon us. So all we need is the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, sincerity in our worship, and then having the correct intentions. If we do that, then Jannah will be just as far away from us as the day that we expire. After that, everything goes, inshallah, uphill. So Fatima alayhi salam, because these lectures are dedicated to Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. Fatima alayhi salam gave us the best examples when it comes to worship and the reasons to worship. She didn't live for a long time. She was married by the age 9 and she was martyred by the age 19. So the pubescent years are just 10. Even though that, she is Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, the lady of all women in all creation. So how would you make sense of that? And if you look at Ali ibn Abi Talib, he's the same. ضربة علي يوم الخندق تعدل عبادة الثقلين. That Ali's strike with the sword, just 1 second, just this, in the day of Khandaq, is equal to the worship of all creation in all of time. So you would say, how does Fatima's worship within 10 years and Ali's strike at 1 day equal all of the worship of all of the creation? Because Ali ibn Abi Talib says that I didn't do anything except if I saw Allah before it, while I'm doing it, and after it. Both sincerity and the utmost attention to the intention itself. And he actually refused to strike Marhab in the first time. He went away, and the Muslims were, so weirded out by it. Marhab is like such a great warrior. If you don't kill him now, you venture just something like, what happens in the movies. You just turn your head around and then the bad guy is not there anymore. He's fighting again. So why did you leave him? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib told them that when he spat in my face, because when he was lying, they had dialogue, so he spat. So when he spat in my face, I felt anger, and I didn't want to kill him with the feeling of anger. I just want to kill him for the will of Allah. I don't want anything to be in. And of course, as Shia, we don't believe that they have these compulsions anyways. But it was Amir al-Mu'mineen's way in teaching us. So he ventured losing a war, a full-fledged war, based on just giving us the good ethics. And the Prophet says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتِمَّ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was just sent to you to have the best ethics, because this is what worship is all about. Ethics, understanding, mutual community, and obviously the love of Ahlul Bayt, which is the key to everything. So, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the worship that they have done, we will never get up to, because they have a level of faith and sincerity and niyyah that we may never even start to comprehend. So, Fatima al-Zahra salamullahi alayha did many things in the best intention and in the best niyyah, including crying upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Foods lavishly. You're not allowed to have spices or whatever, You're like some of the spices that are considered perfumes, like cardamom. You eat bland food. You don't cover your head from the sun. You are under severe test. 27 things you're not allowed to do when you're muhrim, because you're going to the hills between you and falling, God forbid, into sin. So if someone does that anyways, this means that not only does he listen to the devil, he has become an incarnation of the devil. He has to fix and mend himself up. So it is just part of the test. And yes, it is intentional that you are allowed to touch, but not physically through clothes. That is not haram by itself. It is haram on ill intention. So if you go, for example, for an orthopedic and you have a bad knee, and it's a woman and she holds the knee, and tries to figure out where the bones are moving, everything's right, and it's yeah. So that is already all right. It's fine. It's fine, because it's not touched directly on skin. However, with possibility of ill intention, it is prohibited. If a person may say, if that happens, I don't know, I may say something, I may do something, I don't know. So that it would be prohibited. So touching behind ihram is fine. That is first thing. Second thing, when it's somewhat Allah's decrement, one has to take care and try not to. But if it happens, it's just something that Allah has decreed upon you. Just like Allah decreed upon sexual abuse or something, when they're young, Allah could have protected them, but He didn't. It's just part of the test. Plus, it is just a series of unfortunate events that Allah. Yes, yes. Ihram falls. Okay. So it's gone. Yeah. Yeah, and you're a strong guy, but it happens. It happens. If because men have just two on, and then from let's say the belly button up, you're not covered. What happens? Is it invalidated or not? So covered. What happens? Is it invalidated or not? So the obligatory part of salah for men, all they need to cover is the privates. So if you are to have, I don't know, maybe like just two pieces of, so let's say one, two, three, four. So if you are to have, I don't know, maybe like just two pieces of, so let's say one, two, three, four. I mean, four. A cloth will be from the belly button to the. I didn't know if I wanted to go. I said before, where have you? She could just wear. Now the question is, where have you? She could just wear. Now the question is, so is a man allowed? Not allowed. That is, so is a man allowed? Not allowed. That this setting is called a setting of shubha, which is a situation in which it is a in which it is a questionable situation. So being in a questionable situation to that level, that is prohibited at the man level, that is prohibited at the man receiving the massage is not actually fond of women. Receiving the massage is not actually fond of women. And the woman giving massage is not actually fond of men. The best example. Actually fond of men. The best example. And it's extreme shubha to a level. Shubha means doubt. Not even doubt. I mean, it insinuates in. Not even doubt. I mean, it insinuates in. It's hard to translate, but in Arabic, it's like an a very risky one. Risky, even though so. But it's really risky, even though so. But it's really important. Then yeah. So it needs to have a pulpit. I was waiting for this question. Thank you, mashallah. He wasn't luxurious, and he wasn't luxurious in his life, and this money we could easily his life. And this money we could easily just sell and give to poor people, and we could do all of these things. He who highly it's very difficult to translate this one actually. He who highly honors the rituals of Allah, then he will have the piety at heart. So part of Allah's kingdom and grandness, because we only understand materialistic things, Allah is showcasing materialistic things that appeal to us. Showcasing materialistic things that appeal to us. If I was a king, I would want a big pulpit. I would want servants, angels. I would want seven. Are figurative because again, the Quran talks about many things as physical, but they're not. Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. Allah's hands above theirs. Allah does not have a hand because this is a tool and this is a weakness. Without the hand, we can't move. We need it for movement. This is why it's there. Allah needs nothing for His actions. So, Yadullah means the power of Allah and the acceptance of Allah. Ceremonies. There's a word for it. Something that is just protocol. What is the word? No. It's which one? Oh, the pulpit. No, I'll talk about that later. But no. But these things, the pulpit, etc., they actually have their symbolism and their roles. So in order for us to get to their real secrets, we need to go and read through the narrations. For example, we have in the Quran, but no, they are different individuals, right? They have their secrets. I haven't read much into the pulpit, but I inshallah promise to read more about the pulpit so that I could answer this question. However, ceremonial gratitude, that is all within the realm of what is correct. So we have another question here. Assalamu alaikum. Is it obligatory to go on sujood when you hear someone recite sajda verses while you're in salat. Yes, if you're in prayer and someone recites stand up again, you're just hearing it and you notice that this is the ayah of sajda, you don't have to do sujood. You only have to do sujood when you are actually, as they call it in Arabic, insat, not only listening attentively. So if you listen but in the peripheral, hearing, so it's not actually registering, it's fine. Similarly in prayer, if you're so focused on your prayer and you just randomly hear it and you didn't have an intention to, it's fine. You don't need to do that. But yes, it is obligatory even within salah to do that. So I think we have a final one. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. Could you please elaborate conditions of what breaks the wudu? Okay. So there are many things to break the wudu. I will talk about the things that are important just as points and we will be concluded inshallah. So first of all, urination. Second of all, excretion. Third of all, expulsion of gas from the lower orifice. That is a thing. Thirdly, anything that will make your mind inactive. In the sense, if a person, God forbid, is intoxicated, or if he's under anesthesia, or if he faints, he loses. If he sleeps, it's all in the same category. Also, obviously, anything that will cause a grand ghusl, grand ablution, as in, for example, relations, it will also break the wudu. But then, if you do ghusl, it will compensate for that. We have also, so blood exiting the body does not invalidate wudu. Even if a person, God forbid, will have his hand cut off and then just, I don't know, the bleeding stopped somehow, he could pray without renewing the wudu. So blood exiting the body, except for women, the cycle, that's something else. But other than that, blood doesn't affect. This is a common question also. And yeah, so I think that covers that. So yes. No, no, it doesn't. It is mustahab in the jurisprudence or the marjas. And the narrations that say that if you do get angry, you need to perform ablution, it's talking about something of anger management rather than actual obligation. Because if we revisit, for example, some of the narrations that speak about ethics, many of them give obligations that are not accepted as obligations in the general consensus of Islam. For example, if you laugh excessively, then go and perform wudu. But going to perform wudu, to do after laughing, no, I mean, even all parts of Muslim denominations, they all agree that laughing does not invalidate your wudu, but it's still mentioned to perform wudu. So even mentioning yajibu alayhi, he has to, in that word, doesn't need to. Let's get another example. And let's all become marji'as now. I'll give you an example and I want an answer from all of you. There is this verse in Quran that says, إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما. Which means that Safa and Marwa, the two mountains that we stroll in between in Hajj, are from the rituals of Allah. So there is no problem if you go and pass through them. And whoever volunteers, then he will find good from Allah. This is the exact translation of it. Again, and so whoever passes, there is no issue, there is no problem in him doing that. So do you understand that this is wajib or haram or mustahab or makruh or mubah? Can I have an answer? Sorry? No. I don't want the end result. Per your understanding from the Quran. It's mustahab if that. Mustahab if that. So mubah, mubah is the closest actually, which means there is no problem because that is mubah. It's mubah for me to drink this water. Actually, it is wajib. But the context of Quran is saying there is no problem if you do it. So, no problem does not mean obligation. However, this verse was descended when there were pagan gods and sculptures between Safa and Marwa. So the Muslims did not want to go there, not to resemble the heathens, because the sculptures and monuments on the Kaaba and inside pre-Islam, they were removed by Imam Ali and by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a very well-known story. So people said that, okay, now they're gone, we're allowed to go and do tawaf. But those weren't taken. So it's because of the action of the Prophet, they thought that the Kaaba is okay, but the Safa and Marwa is out of bounds. So context when it comes to narrations is very important. So even if a narration says you're obligated to do that, it's always not necessary until we find the full context and compare them with other things. I mean, there are these very clear narrations that say you need not wudu except if you do such and such and such and such. So these help us a lot. They show us what is obligatory. So anything other than that, even if it is told to be obligatory, is going to collide. So we take with the main one, which is in detail, rather than the generalistic one. So I think I felt. Yes, sure. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. This is the same as the Quran. That was actually what I said exactly. I said that Imam Ali does not witness the anger as the same as we do, and he does not have these what was the word? Compulsions. I use this word. He does not have these compulsions. However, he is talking in as an example of anyone else that could have been, just like the Quran, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the Quran was descended. I think it was the Prophet or Imam Sadiq descended with the tongue of إياك أعني واسمع يا جارة, which means that the Quran was descended in talking to someone and meaning the other. This is why we have the surah Abasa wa Tawalla talking to the Prophet. Or لما تحرم ما أحل الله لك. This is even greater. Allah is telling the Prophet, why do you make haram upon yourself what I have made halal? And the Prophet would not go contradicting Allah. But it's talking to the Prophet in the sense that if there was anyone instead of you, I'm setting an example. So it's just like scolding the quiet kid so that the actual naughty kid will stay in his place. You can say, oh my God, this is going to happen. So that's I think a very good point. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm. Sorry. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Uh huh. Yes. 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 Reassertion is important. Yes. Mm. Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is what we call ahkam thanawiyya, which is like secondary verdicts. A certain action is not required, but for you it is. Or sometimes something is not prohibited, but for you it is. Another, remember the example of a woman, just a doctor, a GP checking your, what do you call these, knees? Checking. And so if that is going to happen to them, they might have another idea. They may, do something that is not. I mean, jurisdiction it's fine, but for him, it's not. So this is a secondary thing. And so if you feel or that upon you to a certain level, depending on the situation, sometimes it is truly, yes, if I don't do my wudu now, I know I'll break his bones, for example. No, it is truly obligatory upon you to go. So this is just a secondary verdict, and it is an acceptable. Yes. Yeah. The narrations actually do say exactly what the brother says. Yes, yes. To just yeah. This is exactly what the narration was saying. Yeah. Yes, yes. Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Uncle. So now Uncle Asif is asking, what level of sleep is actually the one required to break your wudu? So in the narration of Imam Sadiq, he says, لا بأس بالخفقة والخفقتان. There is no problem in your head fading once or twice, in the sense it's like falling because you're drowsy. However, in other narrations, he says that if you're not able to hear, then that is when you need to redo your wudu, because sometimes you close your eyes, but you still hear, you know what's going around. But if you lose consciousness to what is being said, you don't hear, your connection is cut with this world, then that is the level. Oh, if you're in doubt, it's okay. Always, when in doubt, you could go through. So thank you very much, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, hoping to meet you very soon. At least, can you please repeat in the mic the question? Oh, sorry. It's already, the damage was done. Inshallah, I'll be. Yeah, inshallah, next time. So just, yeah, that's it. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad.